Today's guest I had never met until today. Her name is Nicole C. Mullen, and what a sweetheart she is. And you know her song, right. I know my Redeemer lives. Anyway, she wrote that. Anyway, she's our guest today, and she had a discussion with us about racial relationships and tensions in the culture and out and inside the church.
Inside the church, yeah. I think sometimes we think that race division is just a cultural issue, but we know that that also happens inside of the church. And so what we were asking Nicole C. and what we were talking about is what can we do to meet that issue head on? How can we as disciples of Christ be unifiers in our culture, in our churches on race issues? And I think you're especially interested because you go to
my
a church.
Grace Church, Humble, Texas. It was started by a white family, and now it's grown to, I'm the minority. I go in there, and there's no one in there looks like me, hardly, but we worship together. Because you know our blood is all red.
That's right. We're learning that relationship, getting to know one another, is the core experience that helps us to actually unify and see each other, not as different, but as alike.
There's one seat left at the table, and it's yours. Let's join the conversation.
I would say in our culture, let me maybe say American culture, but I think world culture, community is not, we are not interacting with each other. Do you feel that, do you feel the tension, I mean, just in culture in general, people, humanity is not communing with each other. You know, there's extreme tension,
they're
division.
yelling at each other.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of heat, but there's very little light. You know, there's just, it's all fire.
Very little conversation, right?
Yeah, it's just yelling.
Like monologues.
You know? Why is that?
I don't know. I think part of it, honestly, and I mean, we're all creatures of our society in one way or another. I think part of it is we are talking to this, and we get emboldened by saying what we want to say here without really having like one-on-one conversations with people, hearing what they have to say, interacting this way. And then I think because we don't know each other, we're afraid of each other, you know? And so we begin to like fill in the blanks of what we think about each other with our own imaginations, our own stereotypes, instead of saying, no, let me sit down and really get to know you, because I'm a lot more likely to take up for and to go the extra mile for someone I love than for somebody that I just fear or have, an outside opinion about. So
you're saying get to know your neighbor.
Yeah.
You know, when I first met the Lord, in our church, we were taught to witness to everybody, right? So we'd sit next to people on the plane. The first thing out of my mouth would be, if you were to die today, do you know where you'd spend eternity? And now, as I've grown up and I've got to know the Lord better, it's like the Lord taught me, get to know them. Find out where they're coming from before you cram me down their throats.
Earn the right to speak.
You know, I'm a gentleman, and I would like to be introduced the proper way. Don't just cram me down people's throats. And so, and then when you let them tell their story, there'll be a door that's obviously open.
Well, story will trump any, if there's difference in a race, there's difference in lifestyle, difference in whatever. Story is where we relate.
Well, Jesus told parables. That's why there's People magazine. There's stories, you know. People love to hear about other people.
And he told stories at people's homes, too. You know what I'm saying? He came and he ate. He sat at the table. You know what I'm saying? Or he was at the fish fry. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? For real, he was there. And it was there that he told stories. It wasn't just, he didn't go and just, I mean, he preached, but he loved on them. He demonstrated who he was by what he did. He got involved in their lives. He came down to where they were at, not just saying, I'm only going to preach in the synagogue. And if you don't come to the synagogue, then you won't hear me. Nope. He went to the parties. You know what I'm saying? He went to where they were. He went to the streets. He went to where they were being condemned. He went to where they were at in order to communicate who he and his Father were. So.
That takes actual time, energy, which translated is love.
Which is love, yeah. And I think all the time, because he could have so easily have done like mass prayers to where he said, everybody be filled, everybody be healed, everybody be made whole. And then he could have been on his way in like 2 seconds flat.
Right.
But according to scriptures, like he like took time and he talked to people individually.
What is my role and responsibility as a white male in 2018 who is also believes that everyone is created equal because God has created us all like him?
I think the typical American way is to ask, what can I do? And sometimes that is the right question to ask, because we should do something. faith without works is dead. And if we see our brother or sister hurting, the Good Samaritan parable, we should help. We should do something. But I think sometimes the question that we should ask, help me to see. You know, the book of Ecclesiastes says, if you see the poor in a district and they're being oppressed by someone higher than them, it's interesting how Solomon says, if you see the poor, because many times, as Mother Teresa would say, we'd rather talk about the poor than have conversations with the poor. We'd rather give someone a sandwich rather than sit down and get to know them and understand, why are you homeless to begin with? So I would back it up for many of my white brothers and sisters who may be burdened. What do I do? Maybe step back and say, man, Lord, help me to see what my brothers and sisters see. Help me to feel what they feel. Help me to have more compassion, more understanding. Because when you see and feel and you are burdened, you don't have to worry about what to do. The gospel is not just John 3:16, get me to heaven. The gospel is also Luke 4:18, where Jesus said he was anointed to bind up the brokenhearted and to set the captives free, to give sight to the blind, to proclaim liberty to the oppressed. That is the gospel as much as going to heaven is. But I grew up with such a focus on, hey, pray this prayer and go to heaven. But not really dealing with the nasty here and now of how to love my neighbor who's different than me, especially one who may be marginalized and poorer. But if we read Jesus properly, I mean, man, his last long parable in Matthew, the sheep and the goats. When you stand before me in heaven, I'm not going to ask you your theological position. I'm not going to ask you your voting record. I'm going to ask you, how did you help the least of these? And when we think about America, who are the least of these historically in America? And what are we doing? What have we done to help the least of these? Whether they be in prison, whether they be naked, thirsty, on and on. So if the posture of our Christianity doesn't lead us towards people who are marginalized.
Yeah, then are we following Jesus?
Right.
Dinner Conversations is presented by Project Beautiful. Did you know for only $30 a month, you can save 3 people a year from sex trafficking around the world? Just think, if this was your daughter, wouldn't you be glad someone is spending $30 a month to get her home? Go to projectbeautiful.org/dinner conversations and join Andrew and me as we try to stop sex trafficking in the world today.
If we don't help, who will? Project Beautiful, because every life is beautiful and worth fighting for. Or maybe I'll say, do you feel like this? That our church is also affected and maybe sometimes even infected by the division, especially, let's
You're talking about the racial division?
Especially
Yes,
racial
absolutely,
division, yeah. So how are we the seed of change? How do we reflect something different?
How do we fix this?
Well, let me just say
Speaking
this.
of covering it all with
That was.
You know, I always have an opinion on something.
How long that question was, and I put it in
I know,
2
it's
words.
all good.
Fix.
I love it. I love it.
this.
You fix this. How you gonna fix it? Huh?
So how do we fix this?
Well,
How
well-
do we mix the races?
Is it a fix?
Yeah, absolutely. It is a fix. I grew up in all black churches, all white schools. Grew up in a mixed neighborhood.
Huh.
So from my earliest recollections, my world was mixed. It was diverse. So I'm not speaking from an all black perspective. I have children. 2 of my children are biracial. You know what I'm saying? So this has been my life.
From the beginning.
From the beginning. Some of my best friends are Caucasian, some are African American, some are other ethnicities. And so I'm not here saying, everybody, they're wrong, they're right. No. But I do think that there needs to be not just dialogue, but there needs to be like true respect given back and forth. And to be able to, like I said earlier, like Jesus heard their stories, to hear someone else's story. Because if I hear your story, now I have to validate the way you feel. Because your perspective is legitimately different than mine, and they are both like real and right, But the way we get together is how do we get together on this bridge of like, I respect what you've said. I believe what you said. And now because I have heard you out, I have a little more empathy for you. Now I want to take up for you. Now I want to say, okay, then how do I give up a little of what I have to help you over here, and vice versa? So how can we link? Now we can link arms because we've heard each other. We respect each other. And I think what has to happen is that, do I believe we need to have our churches a lot more, integrated? Absolutely. I think it needs to be represented from the head all the way down. So that's absolutely yes. But I think even more so than that, I think after church is what matters most.
Yeah.
So after church, am I willing to go out to lunch with that family that looks totally different than mine?
Yeah.
After lunch, am I willing to have them over to my home? Am I willing to go to, their plays for their kids, whatever it might be? Am I willing to
Get to know them.
To get to know them, absolutely.
Because it's hard to hate it when it has a face.
And when you get to know them,
them.
absolutely. Then they go from being just friends, brothers and sisters.
Or something you fear.
Friends, they become family.
So many relationship.
Relationship, absolutely.
Yes.
And that's practical.
We were talking earlier about my cousins who live here in town. They've got 2 biological boys, Caucasian family, adopted an Ethiopian girl.
Okay.
And just in love. I mean, Lydia is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. But my cousin, who's her mother, she so respected the culture she came from and wanting to respect that in her life, Lydiana's, as she grows up, but then also respecting her as an African-American girl and woman, and not being an African-American woman herself, like not knowing how to take care of her hair, her skin, practical things. And so what did she do? She went and asked one of her closest African-American women friends and said, I don't know, I want to know, teach me, because she's afraid of being in the grocery store.
That's
and,
great.
And then
because we get funny about that. You probably already know. We were like, look at her hair. Looking at her
and that's what she was afraid of.
We're too preoccupied with it. We're like, so she was wise.
Yeah, to do that. But that's an effort of respect, I
It
say.
is. And I'm sure she won favor among the lady that she asked for help from. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Right.
And even though she's going after the well-being of her daughter,
yes,
at the same time, she's forming a bridge.
Right.
with
And she's
others.
understanding things she's never understood before.
And you get to discover their food.
Yes.
Every culture has a whole wonderful world of
like a
food.
jambalaya.
And I am
Gumbo. Your food you love.
I love to go to eat home cooking
Yeah.
from some other culture.
Yeah.
Like my sister's ex-husband, who I still dearly love, and we're all great friends still. So I love him.
It's
anyway,
good. Yeah.
But he befriended these African-American people up in the hills of Virginia, and they were he would talk about them, tell stories about them, and it made them sound so wonderful. I said, please take me.
Yes.
And so we went up there, and they all loved on me, and I ate chitlins for the first time. For the first time. Oh, they were horrible.
They sting.
It's the guts of but I had to try it. I'll try
I'm proud of you.
anything.
That's good.
I mean, I had to try what they loved.
Yeah.
I didn't care for it, but I do find a lot of things, like I love chicken livers and stuff like that. But anyway, I don't know how I got off on that.
We don't all eat chicken livers. We don't all eat chitlins. Just so y'all.
No,
I know. You didn't say that. You didn't say that.
These people.
I don't like it.
Oh, see, I love it.
Yeah.
But they had a different take on family, a different take on fun.
Yes.
They were a blast.
And it enriched your life. It enriched you.
enriched
You know what I'm
my
saying?
life.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and I
Changed
wondered listen, when I was growing up, I wanted a black friend. I wasn't around anybody because we went to a private Christian school, and I really think, looking back, some of that was racially motivated now because our integration was happening, and I wonder how much it was to protect us from what they were teaching, and because I was in Texas in the 70s, and I don't know. You can edit this out, but I was full grown when I heard the Martin Luther King letter from the Birmingham prison. I was full grown.
Yeah, because they kept you away from it. Yeah.
Well, evidently.
Yeah.
And I called my parents. I said, it was on a book on tape that I was listening to, and I was like stunned.
Yeah.
It was the most incredible letter.
Yeah.
And I called my parents, have you ever heard about this? Well, yeah. I said, well, why haven't I? I called Bill and Gloria Gaither. Have you heard about? I mean, I was just stunned that I was not. I'd never heard about this.
Yeah.
And angry because it was not the education I deserved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, we played hokey pokey. You put your right foot in, you put your right foot out, and all that stuff. And you go through the whole song putting something in and putting something out. And I think we approach reconciliation that way. We may put a foot in it, but we're going to pull it right out, especially when it gets tough, when I get uncomfortable, when it gets hard. It happens in churches, whether they're homogeneous churches or multicultural churches, and people just want to leave. But wow, I think love bears all things. We got to stick this thing out. And so the world is looking at the church, and the church, unfortunately, we've lost our witness. We don't have salt in this area.
And why is that? Like in your experience, I mean, I know that's a broad question,
Yeah.
but think about it in terms of racial unity.
Yeah. Andrew, my man. The church's fingerprints are all over the racial caste system that built America. And the church okayed the slave trade. The church misused the Bible to say that people made in the image of God were truly not made in the image of God, that we were cursed, that our lot in life was to be subjected, to be slaves, that it was divine order for us. So when the church cosigns a wicked economic system, we can't get that thing right in America until we go back again and admit our sins. And no, I wasn't there. But watch this, though. Daniel confessed the sins of his forefathers. Nehemiah confessed the sins of his forefathers because those sins had repercussions on where they were in the present. And where we are today, we're suffering from the repercussions of our ancestors. And if we're not willing to confess those sins and repent of them, and when proper, make restitution for those sins, we just can't have an apology and again, a shake hands. We need to address systems. We need to make wrong things right. But it takes humility. It takes honesty. If I was an abusive husband, and let's say I beat on my wife for 20 years, man. Then year 21, I have a revelation. And God talks to me and says, man, that's wrong. And I say to my wife, you know what, I'm sorry. Things are going to be different from here on out. And hopefully she'll forgive me. But I can't get upset with her if I walk in the room a week later and she's still jumpy and she doesn't trust me. Because the time in which I abused her has forged something in her psyche that's off. She's still afraid. And my words are one thing. My actions are something else, and it takes time
And the consistency.
and consistency to prove that I'm sorry.
Has the evangelical church in the Western world, American evangelical church, disappointed you?
Yes. Absolutely. I can't remember the person who said it. May have been Mahatma Gandhi, but follow Jesus, not his followers. Something to that degree. That I believe in Jesus, I don't necessarily believe in his followers. It's definitely a disappointment, for sure. I was educated in a white evangelical institution, and the lack of attention, sensitivity towards issues that are important to me and my community. Sometimes it would make me wonder, is my presence here only for entertainment, to make the football team better? Reconciliation without a redistribution of power is nothing more than colonialism. The essence of the gospel is to empower the powerless. The Bible says that Jesus was rich, yet he made himself poor so that we through his poverty might become rich. Jesus emptied himself without ceasing to be God to save people from their sin. If we're not emptying ourselves, if we're not lifting other people up, if we're not giving power that we have to other people, I dare to say it's not the gospel.
Spiritually speaking, what do you personally do with that disappointment? I mean, how do you hash that out with God? You
just lament, and you stay there until the Lord lifts you up. But it's okay to pour out your heart to God and tell him how much you're hurting. But yet I serve a God who understood sorrow and was acquainted with grief. The Bible says he was a man of sorrows. So with the disappointment, sometimes, you know, historically for the black church, we would pour out our heart at the altar. We would weep before God. We would cry. We would fast. You know, you see that again with Daniel, Nehemiah. So again, before we try to fix it, oh God,
Humble.
hear my cry, oh God.
But it begins with humility. I mean, everything we're talking about,
Humility.
everything points back to if we will
Dude.
humble.
Remember, is it Luke 18? They're praying in the temple. Pharisee and the tax collector. Tax collector can't even lift his head up. What's the Pharisee doing? I'm glad I'm not like other people. And I don't do this, and I tithe. And Jesus said, I tell you what, that humble guy went home justified. But that religious man, what does it say, Micah? We need to walk with him humbly. Man. Oh, brother.
So if we are as diverse as we are, you look around the
Right.
world and we're as diverse as we
How
are,
diverse
and
is
even
God?
hopefully, yes, if we are created in the image
His
of God,
image.
yeah, then what is that? What do you think that says about God?
It says that God is diverse. It says that God, matter of fact, he made no mistake when he made different ethnicities, different colors, different cultures. It was intentional. You know, this is a reflection of him. So for us to think that our own culture is the whole totality of who God is really just arrogant and misguided for any of us. Ignorant for any of us. You know what I'm saying? But to know that he is diverse, therefore he created diversity. You know what I'm saying? He has that inside himself, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, as we were talking about earlier. You know, and so he didn't make one color flower and nothing else is, you know.
Wouldn't that be
you know,
boring?
wouldn't it? He didn't just make everything in grayscale. He gave us the colors and the flavors of life to enjoy. And I think life is richer and more full when we put those
Yes,
things
more
together.
beautiful.
When we accept each other and say, you know what? Let me take a piece of your culture. Let me learn about that. Let me learn about this. Let me learn about that. Especially those of us who claim to be a part of the body of Christ, especially. And I think we have an extra charge to be the ones who model this to the world. Otherwise, we're taking cues from a society that really doesn't know how to do it right. When we have the blueprint, we have
We've got the spirit guidance. Right?
yes,
like
and we
the
have John
foundation.
15. You know, make them one, even as we're one. You know, he wants us to love each other because that's the way we're going to show that we're followers of him. Not by how well we preach, not by how well we sing, not by how well we travel around the world telling
well
people
we
about
love.
him, but by the way we love.
Well, and you say like, and learn a little bit of this culture, and learn a little bit of this, and take a little bit of this and that, and isn't that then also saying discover a little bit more about God, discover a little bit more about God, discover
And
a
his
little-
creation, yep, what he
Very
did,
good.
absolutely, yeah. Yeah, because I've
I'm
learned the
serious.
richest
That is good.
richest lessons from
Yeah.
other people in other
Yes.
places and other cultures
Oh,
than I
yeah.
have just
Absolutely.
you know, studying
Same
on
with
my own.
denominations.
Yeah.
I was raised Baptist, right? Independent Baptist,
Okay.
which is, you know, sometimes we are independent of God, it seems. But,
We real independent.
But we love Jesus.
We don't need nobody.
That's
No.
right. But
Yeah,
we were
yeah.
independent
Yeah,
Baptist. So when I joined the Gaithers, it opened my life that there are Presbyterians who are
Yep.
madly in love with Jesus.
Yep.
And there are
Absolutely.
Pentecostals who can do more than
Yep.
shout. They love Jesus.
Thank
and
you.
there are Methodists who, you know, love Jesus. And, and I used to get Jerry Falwell's Christmas card and Tony Campolo's Christmas card. They used to argue with each other on CNN, and they both love Jesus, and I know both of them. And I put them side by side on my refrigerator. And I'd think, okay, here are two men that I know love the Lord, but they came to diabolically opposed political conclusions.
Yeah.
Which tells me, stay out of politics.
We need to be there or change your heart. You know what I'm saying?
I know
Yeah.
we need to be there. I believe we should
We
vote.
serve in our service. That's our service to our neighbors, right?
Right.
But it is saying what's
No.
the main thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
politics is not the main thing, and our opinions and preferences are not the main thing. That's what you're talking about worship.
Yes, absolutely.
Where we're not,
Yeah.
where all our preferences and our comfort lies is not necessarily the heartbeat
Yeah.
of who we are. I think. Because
Yeah.
the heartbeat of who we are is in reflecting who God
Absolutely.
is. And that takes a great deal
And
of
it's sometimes
surrender.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You and me may not always see identically. There's some things where we're simply gonna disagree. you and me, we love, love, love. By the way, unity in diversity, we love. By the way, I love you, you love me. By the way, we love, 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 love. They'll see him. By the way, we love, love, love. By the way, we love.
Oh, yeah. When we were looking for a sponsor for our program, we thought not only do we want a sponsor, we want some sponsor that is doing something eternal. And what I love about Project Beautiful, well, is the interception. It's about sex trafficking. Who knew? In our day and age, you still had to worry about sex trafficking.
About slavery.
And slavery. Well, Project Beautiful is in the ministry of intercepting those before they get into sex trafficking, which is what I love that.
Right.
And they'll go to like airports and they watch, and they're in cahoots with of course the government and the police. But then they go in there and they know what to look for, and they'll flash a card. I just learned all this myself. They flash a card and they ask a few questions and they catch those sons of guns and they arrest the trafficker, save the trafficked, and bring them home.
They do, right? They monitor. So that's how they
Yeah.
help intercept them.
Yeah, and they know the red flags
Right.
to watch for.
And then the interception begins. So Project Beautiful steps in. When those red flags are raised and they realize this is what's going down, they then step in to stop
Yes.
the trafficking before the slavery
Get the
begins.
trafficker in the jail and get the children home.
And probably the ultimate thing, they're educating them in the gospel, part of the bringing home
Absolutely.
process. So they're working in every angle. I consider it this really kind of holistic way to be a part of ending modern day slavery, you know.
Wonderful.
We love it. We would like you to love it too.
$30 a month, you will save 3 lives a year from sex trafficking, slavery. $30 a month, $40 a month, you save 4.
Yeah, it's easy math, and it's obviously a calling that feels compelling to us.
Won't you join Andrew and me? Go to projectbeautiful.org/dinner conversations.
Find out more. We've got a special gift for you there just because of how important this is to us.
If we don't help, who will? Project Beautiful, because every life is beautiful and worth fighting for.
Think about, I mean, it's natural that I would relate to God as potentially as a white guy as a child. I grew up in a predominantly Caucasian and Hispanic community. So I would see him in some of those shades. And just in my imagination and mind, if I'm putting human skin on God.
Paintings or whatever. You know,
Yeah, of course, all the blue eyes,
yeah,
blue
yeah.
eyes, brown haired
Yeah, yeah,
Jesus,
yeah.
you know. And that's natural to relate to. But as my worldview expands, as my perspectives expand, as my relationships expand, as my experiences expand, I can no longer just relate to the God of my childhood in the sense of how I'm picturing him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think the more we get into the Word, though, too, we get a chance to see the real him, too. Therefore, it expands our worldview. You know, it expands who I love, let me see who he loved.
Yes.
He went to the Samaritan, who was the mixed breed back then, according to what they would say, you know, and he spoke to her, and
He wasn't even supposed
gave
to put
honor.
his feet on the land.
And still he did.
And he walked right up.
Exactly.
Middle
So
of the day.
He broke a lot of these, like, social, you know, whatever.
everything.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
everything.
Yeah,
He'll
yeah.
break the law to get you home.
Sure will. You know what I'm saying? So if he did it, then why aren't we going across those lines saying, I'm still going to love you. I'm still going to be your friend. I'm still going to, you know, do
Well,
what
you
I
gave
can
a
to
good
serve
example
you.
about go to church, find a family that doesn't look like you, and ask them, how would you feel? How would you do it where you don't make them feel like you're being a project?
I think maybe first, if you just, even with an introduction, hey, I'm so-and-so, you know, and hey, really enjoyed having you guys here. Then maybe the next Sunday you're like, you know, hey, I would love to maybe sometimes, you know, get together. Maybe we can go do lunch sometimes. You know, what do you like to do? Maybe ask them a little
Overtime.
bit. Yes, you know what I'm saying.
Warm
Maybe,
up to it.
Yeah, maybe
And
ask them a
even
little bit.
Stating your intention when it's appropriate time, right?
Absolutely.
Saying, I would actually love to get to know you and your family. I would love to get to know. I see this. I've observed this, and
Absolutely, and I want to be a part of the solution. Being
Yeah.
upfront about it is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because we don't do that, do we?
No, because sometimes we want to skirt around it like,
So if someone walks, hey, listen, there's racial tension everywhere. Can we get to know each other? I mean, that's really what you're saying.
Well,
but
kind of
not
because
but not like that.
No.
But yeah, you're right. But yeah. Can we just, you know,
Hey, there's racial tension everywhere. Want to know each other?
I know.
Well, but with earned trust, because
yeah,
otherwise, you know what I think we do? I think we demonstrate otherwise. Because we can't be straightforward with each other in our interactions individually, we then have demonstrations that are hugely divided. I think, someone asked me recently, what do you think about demonstrations in general? I said, why don't we start demonstrating to each other?
Okay, what does that mean?
That means, why don't I demonstrate, either it could be
mutual respect right here.
Yes, even if there's a
Yeah.
conflict, or like,
Yeah.
I don't understand something, or can you explain this
Yeah.
to me, or can I be heard on this? And so you're demonstrating love.
And I love that too. I mean, I think everybody has the right to publicly protest if they want to as well. So we're agreed on
Not
that.
gonna control
However,
that,
but I do fully agree with what you just said, because for me, I've had people ask me, like Caucasian people say, okay, well, I'm really stuck on this issue. Can we talk about it? I'm not trying to be offensive, but can I ask you some questions? I welcome it 100%, 200%. I love the conversation. Never been offended by it. And so I'm like, please, like, if you have, like, there are things you don't know, then let me be your tour guide. Let me show you another perspective. You know, then I get a chance to hear yours. You get a chance to hear mine. I get a chance to explain, you know, and I'm not trying to speak for all African Americans, but there's some things that I do know that are common about the way we think about certain things, or the way we may perceive the reception of public opinion. You know what I'm saying? So even like you got the, you know, Black Lives Matter, and you got this over here. To me, there's different issues been talked about. Like the Black Lives Matter, I haven't marched with them. However, I will say, it started from people saying, no, we want to be heard to say that our lives matter as well. Not matter more than, but it matters too. And so with that, of course, you always have people that are going to hijack different things to make it become something that it was not. So you have that. However, at the core, you can't say everything about it shouldn't be, and they have no right because they're just a bunch of thugs. No, a lot of them are politicians. A lot of them are doctors, lawyers, pastors, and they're marching peacefully like in the days of Dr. King, because they're saying our sons and our daughters have the right to make it home. I've taught my sons, you know, when you get pulled over, you go the extra mile. You show your hands. You do, you know, when they tell you to do something, you do it. They tell you to get out of the car, you get out of the car. A lot of times that works, but sometimes even all of that doesn't bring your child home. We've seen that, you know. So as an African-American mom, there are some real issues that the African-American community are saying, but y'all, I know y'all keep saying we're just crying racism, but we're saying for real, there really are problems still. But if you didn't grow up with it, I validate you all because you said I don't see it. That's not my world. And so yeah, you're valid in that, but we're saying, but can you look at ours and give us validity and say there is something different about, you know, this. And so how can I help? You know, not how can I put more fuel on the fire, but how can I actually be a part of the solution and demonstrate right here the mutual respect. Because when we respect each other, then like I said before, we go beyond just feeling like friends. We become family. And I'm going to fight for my family. I'm going to take up for my family. I'm going to care for them. I'm going to make sure that they're not abused.
And especially if you're a Christian, why do you think Christians are as bad at this as the world, aren't they?
Because it's fear. Sometimes it's just we're afraid of each other. So we're like, on the white side, sometimes you're afraid of the black people, and some of the blacks are afraid of the whites.
Fear is the bottom line.
Fear is the bottom line. And where there's fear, you have all this other, like, malady that comes from it because we don't know. You know, we're assuming. And I think if we got to know each other, we would see that we're a lot more alike than we are different. We have a lot more in common than uncommon. And that there's love. There can be love between us and mutual respect.
But again, the Bible, Psalm 133, how good and how pleasant it is when brothers can dwell together,
Right.
not just visit.
Right.
How can we
Just like live
intentionally
together.
intersect our lives? And it's going to be work on everyone's part.
And there's going to be
Because
discomfort, right?
Yes, it's going to be discomfort because I like hanging with who I like to hang with.
Yeah.
But again, we follow this Middle Eastern Jewish man
Yeah.
who had a way of destroying comfort zones. And if we're really going to follow him, then that means at his table, as he told the Jews, there are people coming from north, south, east, and west to sit down with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And what he was saying, it was paramount. He was blowing up their worldview where Jewish people pretty much, not only were they a monotheistic people and people with a rigid moral code, but they kept to themselves ethnically. And they looked down on other people because they considered them not clean because they weren't Jewish. And here comes Jesus saying, they're going to sit down at the table with our patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that is the kingdom of God. But too often our sociology has greater power than our theology, and we've got to flip that around. But on the other, I'll add to that, a caveat to that, some of us are so theological that we're not practical.
Sure.
We know the right answers.
So then we're not seeing, though. The practical is the not seeing, right?
We're not seeing it. I heard John Perkins say when God decided to change the world, he started a multiracial church in Acts chapter 2. So there's something when the world can see people loving each other who typically don't love each other or they have a bad history, but they can get over the history. They can confess those sins and move on. They can forgive each other. That's power.
I have a question because I've been thinking through this question in my own mind. Is that even with, the strides that have been made, though we continue to struggle, we know that slavery, the Emancipation Proclamation did not end slavery in the world, and it certainly did not end.
Emancipation did what?
Did not end slavery in
Right,
the world.
correct.
And we know that tens of millions of people are enslaved in different ways from different backgrounds, different races. This is not, in the world perspective, slavery is still a stronghold, still an issue. What is it that is in humanity that is compelling us to enslave each other?
Money.
The pride of life.
Money.
Yeah, money
They're making
and- yeah.
money off those kids, right?
It's
But where
that
did I
too.
limit? Where did I separate money and treatment of a
Well,
human
they're
being?
freaks. I mean, anybody who would sell another human being is a complete reprobate.
But also a person created in the image of God.
Yeah, but I think it goes back to, and I'm gonna quit trying to sound like y'all think I'm trying to be super religious, but I'm
Oh,
not.
gosh,
But
no.
it goes back to the pride of life. I want to feel better than someone else. So you have prejudice. Regardless of what race and what ethnicity, it's I have to feel better than you. Therefore, I have to put you down, degrade you. And so that, and I know we have it all over the world. And I think part of the tension, I'm going to come back to this and I'm going to get off of it. But even in the African American community, like I was never a slave. We can agree on that. However, I'm a descendant of slaves. And there's still some things I think in our society that have been perpetuated. The mentality of it has been perpetuated, even though some of the exterior has changed a little bit.
Yes.
Underneath, you still have a system that has benefited off of that mentality or that the working of slavery. And then before you know it, you have families that have been separated back then. Then you had things that happened even after slavery was abolished, that there are systems that are still in place that perpetuate dividing the family. Dads are now incarcerated at a higher rate in African Americanism than it is in the white community for the same crimes. That's a fact. But anyway, so you have that. So now you have sons and daughters without a father, and now they're trying to figure it out. But dad has been incarcerated here. Not all black dads are not incarcerated. There's some great ones.
Right.
Mine was not. I know some great African American men that are very upstanding. So
Right.
most of us are upstanding. So now you have families that are torn apart, and you have kids growing up without them. Now you have another generation. Now you have another generation. Now you have another generation. And we're looking, why are they out in the street picketing? Why are they out in the street rioting? Because dad's not there. Because not just because dad was bad, but because there's still systems in place that stem back to the slavery mentality, not just for blacks, but in the larger community as well, to where it has perpetuated the same evil. And that has been something that has been perpetuated, not just from the States all over the world, but you have human nature, because you can't legislate human nature. Therefore, you do have these things. And only Christ can come to redeem that. If he doesn't redeem it, it can't be changed. You can't make laws that are really going to change the way I think about you. You know what I'm saying? I can still go home and secretly hate you, even though the law said I can't do it publicly.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You can't legislate a heart, right?
But Christ can come and rewrite it and change it. Exactly. So only really redemption through Christ can really fix the problem. And so we who have been redeemed, that's why we're the answer to it. We, the church. So if we don't take our place as the redeemed of the Lord, then our society won't be fixed. There's no other remedy outside
area of discord or
in
disease.
any area. Yep, he is the remedy. And he's given it to us. He's put it in us to live it out, to affect the world.
Talk about teaching your children and your sons, especially, like what to do in a situation to get pulled over and something. And I think about something I would never have to think about potentially with my children. Well, maybe I haven't married yet. And
Hey,
so, but I am so grieved by that the fact that it would have to be different. That, I would almost want to say, I wish it happened to me so I could understand it, or so that at least we'd all be, either let's all be treated well, or let's all be treated, and then we'll just go against the devil,
Nice?
Yeah.
But
I think when you have an opportunity to do good, do it. When you have opportunity to stand up for what's right, don't back down. Stand up, Yeah, and you know what? I know.
I don't think everyone's a mystery.
Yeah.
I don't think everyone's different
No.
just because we look or have different
Well,
traditions.
you were blessed.
Yeah.
Well, and that's not putting me on.
I mean, your parents must have done something right.
We all have honestly, every group has their thing though too. So everybody has a measure of prejudice in them that they have to deal with. It's not just a white against black or black against white. Everybody has a measure of that, and it's our own pride. You know what I'm saying? It's how we feel better about ourselves. The root of it. So we have to surrender that individually to the Lord too, and then say, what can I do, and how can I show love for my neighbor, regardless of their color, their ethnicity, their culture. Those of us who've been redeemed, we're called to go out and to show that redemption in how we love each other. And sometimes that each other doesn't look like us, doesn't sound like us, doesn't dress like us, doesn't believe like us.
Now you're meddling.
I'm saying, but we're called to still, but we're still called to love.
Prejudices,
We're still called to love. Still called to love.
Love without an agenda is tough.
We're just called to love. We're not called to. We don't have a heaven or hell to put anybody in. We water, we plant. He gives the increase. If he doesn't give the increase, it wasn't had. We still are called to water and plant. So.
And he's the judge, as in he's like the justice bringer. I think we don't. Our idea of judgment, which is why we were so afraid of God as a judge. But no, justice is a judge. And justice makes things right.
And
makes
he's also
things
merciful.
whole.
Yeah.
Yes, merciful and mighty.
Yeah.
Amen.
That's good. See.
Holy, merciful.
And where are we in this?
We are not the Martins.
We're not.
Well, I did 23andme.com and found out that I am 12% Jewish.
Ooh.
And I believe that's the Jesus in me.
Oh, okay.
And I am 0.05% African American. I'm sad to say.
Wow.
And then the rest is, and also I'm
Polish.
I'm 65% Neanderthal.
What is that? How you figure?
Seriously,
I don't even
there's a
know.
Neanderthal thing.
What
in
is
there.
it? Is that like
It means I've
Vikings?
got a big head.
Who would that be?
Neanderthal, that was like the
Vikings?
first
The
men that,
Vikings?
well, if you believe in, well, they say it's like monkey,
I know we
somewhere
look like
between
Neanderthal.
monkey and human.
You ain't no daggone Neanderthal, whatever.
I'll bring it to you.
Whatever.
To learn more about Dinner Conversations, go to dinner-conversations.com.
And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That'll allow you to get a new episode every week. Like us or don't like us, and leave a comment, good or constructively criticism.
And if it's really, really, really mean criticism, we can delete you.